Hi everyone, welcome back to Metal Shop Steve, and today, as promised, I'm getting back to reviewing some of my favorite albums from back in the day. Not necessarily a hair band, although I do love them. Today we are going to be talking about what could be my favorite album of all time. Yes, big words there, big talk, but I've got to tell you, I love this album. Today we are talking about the Dream Theater album, Images and Words. Really the first full-length album by Dream Theater with the original band members. You can see I'm wearing my Dream Theater t-shirt today. The Distance Over Time brand new album, brand new tour t-shirt. I think it's pretty cool. I like it. And with that, I think we're just going to get right into the album review. So, Images and Words, that was my first experience with Dream Theater. One of my friends who I have mentioned before on here, and he's watched some of my videos, he introduced me to them by way of Pull Me Under, which was really their first kind of well-known song for anybody who knows Dream Theater. Anyway, Images and Words came out around 1992, and at that point the band consisted of James LaBrie on vocals. He is still the singer today. Then going down the list, on guitar, John Petrucci. On drums, Mike Portnoy, Kevin Moore on keyboards, and John Myung on bass. So that was the lineup then. It's changed a little bit around in the many, many years that Dream Theater has been doing this and pumping out solid albums. But anyway, let's focus on Images and Words. The best way to describe Dream Theater, if you've never heard them, and I venture to say that probably anybody who's watching this video has heard of Dream Theater, and that's why you're watching it. But I'll go ahead and tell you, I think they just have such a complete, lush, full sound. There is just, one of my friends, the first time I introduced him to this, said that there is just always something happening. And that's true. Musically, instrumentally, there's always something happening. And there are just so many tiny little technical things happening all over the place. Technical is a great way to describe this band. Not robotic in any way, just very, very technically good. They know what they're doing. Superb, I would even say, technically superb. Just outstanding instrumentals, outstanding work. Kind of their trademark, I would say, over the years. Even now, their sound, they've tried a few things out here and there, but for the most part, their sound has stayed the same over the course of the career path of this band. Very kind of symphonic arrangements, epic type of songs. Especially you see on this album, there aren't a lot of songs that are what you would consider a short song. They're most all long, which is, I guess, pretty standard for a band that you'd consider progressive. You talk about Dream Theater, Queensryche, Fates Warning, bands like that. Certainly Dream Theater is one of the big pioneers of this progressive metal type of sound. So I guess we'll just get into the songs, and I like them all. I like this album top to bottom. As I said before, maybe my favorite album of all time across any genre, so that's saying a lot. Starting off, Pull Me Under, the opener. This is the first Dream Theater song I heard, and still, to this day, my favorite Dream Theater song. I don't know if it's just for nostalgia's sake or because I think it's just really, really good. And each song, especially these longer ones, Pull Me Under clocks in just over 8 minutes. They change and evolve throughout the song, and there are different parts and different layers. It's just what makes Dream Theater. And I just actually recommended this album to another younger friend of mine, another guitarist, a rock guy. He had never heard Dream Theater before, and he was just kind of wowed by the whole thing. He was overwhelmed by what a great sound it was. So Pull Me Under, definitely my favorite Dream Theater song. And then they go right into what is actually one of the shorter songs on the album called Another Day. And that one is really, I'd say, it's kind of keyboard, piano sound. It's very atmospheric and as close to what you would call a ballad as Dream Theater would do, really. Kind of short enough for airplay, and I believe this actually did get some airplay as well. Followed up by, there are probably 3 songs if I had to pick on this album, my 3 favorite songs. The next one of my favorites besides Pull Me Under would be Take the Time, the 3rd song on here. It's another one, it's again just over 8 minutes long. And it's kind of the same formula, you know, it's got different parts. It certainly rocks, it shows off their technical ability. And then I guess just while I'm at it, kind of skipping around on the album here, I'll tell you that my third favorite song on here is the fifth song called Metropolis Part 1, The Miracle and the Sleeper. And if you're familiar with Dream Theater, you know that they have an album out called Metropolis Part 2, which is kind of the continuation of their story. They like to do stories within songs, stories within albums, concept kind of things. So again, Pull Me Under, Take the Time, Metropolis Part 1. For me, as solid a three-piece as you can get on an album. So going back into the album, another one of the shorter songs, and the pattern here seems to be that the shorter songs are the ones that they kind of slow down on a little bit, explore, get a little more atmospheric, as I said, and that would be Surrounded, although that one kind of builds and builds and builds toward the end. So, you know, just keep a lookout for that one. And then you go to Metropolis Part 1, that's the next song, number 6. After that is Under a Glass Moon. Very much in the same vein as those top 3 songs I mentioned, which is, for me, what makes this album so listenable. And you'll find that just because I'm comparing these songs and I'm saying they have a similar format, does not mean in any way that they sound the same. They are all very, very different songs. So this is one that I distinctly remember, this album, just kind of back in the day in 1992 or 1993 when I first had it, just kind of laying back and listening to this whole thing and letting the sound and the music just wrap me up, you know, rocking and just kind of taking me off to a different place. And that's really what a good album is supposed to do. A great album should do that. So Under a Glass Moon. And then you've got Wait for Sleep, which is the shortest song on here, 2.5 minutes long. And that's another piano, keyboard type of song. And it's, again, really quiet. It shows off kind of a softer side to Dream Theater. And then finally, they finish it off with the longest song on the album, but by no means their longest song in general, because, again, if you know Dream Theater, you know that that's really what they're good at. The final song, it's an 8-song album. It's called Learning to Live, 11.5 minutes long. And this one is really an epic. This is where they show off their progressive rock chops. This is kind of not necessarily an ode to their predecessors like Yes or any of the early progressive, what you consider progressive rock type of bands or progressive rock leaning type of bands. But they really pull it all out here. They're all over the place. Keyboards, guitars, soft parts, loud parts, fast parts. Really just, again, a symphony is a great way to describe it, even though it's not really symphonic in terms of the instruments, just in terms of how the song is built, how it progresses, how it goes. That's really what you get with Learning to Live. And, you know, they kind of hit it up with this little guitar riff at the end of the song, and it carries you out. It ends the album. And really, really leaves you wanting more. And that's probably the best way that I feel about this album. When you finish it, you want more, and that's awesome. And I can't really think of a Dream Theater album that I would say I dislike. There are some that I obviously like more than others, although they followed this up with Awake, which is also a really fantastic album. Maybe I'll get around to reviewing that at some point as well. But there you have it, Dream Theater, Images and Words, one of my favorite albums of all time, maybe my favorite, and I very, very, very highly encourage you to go pick this up, whether you've never heard it before, whether it's been a long time since you've heard it. Maybe this is your first experience with Dream Theater, and there is really no better way to start than going back and picking up Images and Words. That's all I have to say about this, and I will see you later. Thanks.